same because in the case of
No.
the United States, the government there has limitations in terms of their ability to access and control the big tech
Yes.
companies. Now, where obviously there are a lot of evidence that US intelligence communities, for instance, even if encrypted down WhatsApp, some would say they're still allowed in certain circumstances, but you need, I think, a court intervention for that. Hindi siya bara-bara. But my
Yeah.
understanding is China doesn't work that way. If the commissar in the company said, do X, Y, and Z, you do X, Y, and Z. There's yeah.
You're right about that, no? So, but like I said, AI is a very complex thing, no? Um, how would I say it? So, I was present in the launching of the AI report by the British Embassy. I was also invited to the AI summit in Paris, but I wasn't able to come because of some visa problems. So yes, even government officials have visa problems, so I wasn't able to come. But the discussion, you know, that how complex AI is. So sending data and the use of incorrect data is one thing. Let's call that content problems.
Mm.
Kumbaga, the AI itself, if it has bad data, then it will produce hallucinations or false information. But there is one other thing, and that's that we are completely forgetting. A lot of these experts, some of them are not even computer scientists, some are physicists, some are mathematicians, have put a lot of time and effort fixing the algorithm itself, making sure that the mathematics behind it and the way these neural networks think from a machine level does not introduce bias. Yun yung nakakalimutan ng mga tao. And that's where it should be made public so that people like us, or maybe not me, the more mathematical
They
geniuses
can
out
see the
there,
beta,
they
this
can
yeah, the dirty
see
kitchen behind the
that's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
correct. And that's where we're concerned about cutting corners. Now, I'm not saying that the algorithm being used by Deepseek has a problem. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we should be mindful of cutting corners because here we're talking about neural networks which has the potential to be self-replicating or self-learning. They're not yet, but they have that potential. Kumbaga, it's the
Mm.
same way as testing, inserting human DNA on animals, which has an ethical problem
This
when it comes to
you might get
experimentation.
some weird mutations,
That's correct.
basically, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's the same with AI. Yun yung sinasabi natin na it's a very complex thing, but the algorithm problem, which is being discussed also, is something that we should safeguard for the betterment of humanity. Because if that becomes an algorithm that is very, very biased, especially if you know na talagang linagyan mo ng bias, edi yung AI will produce not only wrong information, but you might find an AI that's racist also.
Yeah, we had that with Google, I think,
Yeah.
not long ago. And some people are saying, for instance, certain phones have a better filter for certain
For certain
racial
language.
categories,
That's
right? So,
correct.
kunyari, again, I don't want to name drop, but some of the big Asian brand phones, have you noticed if you use them on an Asian face, mas magandang pag-filter niya.
That's
And then
correct.
when you use,
Yeah.
we don't have to name names, but certain, phones developed in non-Western, pansin mo yung mga Caucasian friends mo come off much better than the
Yeah.
non-Caucasian one. And
That's
I
correct.
was told actually by someone who used to work in Pentagon. She was an African American, and she told me, "It's like, look at these phones, right? It's not properly filtering the non-white people in these pictures." And I never noticed, like,
Correct.
oh, nga no, sabi ko, yeah. So
If you're a heavily Asian featured
yeah, hindi niya
person and then you
ma-filter.
apply a filter on it, nagmumukha kang Caucasian. Baliktad.
Yeah, or something like that, right? So you can already see the
That's correct.
algorithmic bias there. Nevertheless, I mean, you have been in your current position. Obviously, previously you were in the private sector, but in your current position in the past 2 years, 3 years alone, it's the compression of time, no? The cycles of innovation or the
Correct.
Schumpeterian creative destruction, right? It's really fast.
Correct.
Anong, like in just the past 2 years, Yusik, ano mga napansin mo in terms of this this constant battle to get the algorithm right, this constant battle to make
Mm.
sure you have certain ethical
I
parameters, and also national security wise in terms of our adjustment.
I think with AI, we still have a lot of to learn, and I think the private sector is outpacing government regulations. I think we should have a basic framework of ethical standards for the use of AI and for the development of AI. Uh, and that is being developed. Sa United Nations, malayo pa eh. But we have to ask a lot of questions. For example, putting AI into lethal autonomous weaponry. Diba? And these types of discussions has to be discussed not only with us, but also in the international community. So there's a lot of things that we have to deal with. And in fact,
The European Union has developed a kind of framework around
yes, they
AI.
did. They did.
And we had, I think, Vice President J.D. Vance in the Munich Security Conference the other week, kind of pushing back against that. Because I know the American argument is you got China, they have no privacy laws or rights, really, in the real sense of the word. And hindi natin ng tao yan. Kasi when you look at the
Correct,
large
correct,
language model, it's really how much you can feed it.
correct.
And
Correct
so
information.
people like Kai Fu Lee or like the
I'll,
AI gurus have been saying that.
I'll
So,
give you
mm,
a very very baba natin konti yung diskusyon ha para mas maintindihan ng tao. Bigyan kita ng napaka-basic na problem. 'Di ba merong right to be forgotten? Meron. If I don't want my profile to be seen in Facebook, for example, merong regulations sa Europe that I can have my entire profile, my entire digital existence in
goes
Facebook
off.
removed.
Yeah.
It goes off. Is there a similar way of doing that in AI data structures? That's so difficult, especially because persistence is a characteristic of the internet. In fact, merong internet archives, ha? So meron
So
talagang
for life
server.
ka na, yo. Oo
Yeah,
nga
for
eh.
life ka na. So that's thing, things that we need to talk about. I know. And by the way, the private sector advisory council and the president have been this. The private sector advisory council had suggested some ways of creating an AI council, and the president also ordered DOST and DICT to come up with a AI roadmap. DTI also has a AI roadmap, but it's more about the industry. But we have, you're right. We now have to. There is now a presidential directive that government has to look into this and create a governance framework for AI. Kasi mahirap eh, kasi everybody's using it eh.
Yeah, everybody's using it. And yun nga, so can we, yung ginawa nila sa European Union, could that be a blueprint for democracies? Because I think,
Yeah, I think so.
obviously, Europe is known for its robust bureaucracy, and some would say it's too robust. As I said, I just mentioned the American critic of that. There's also this argument that if we don't do it, China will do it, and then we'll have a
Yeah.
structural competitive disadvantage, which could have very strict geopolitical implications. Pero pagdating sa atin, at the end of the day, if we want to develop an ethical framework, pwede ba point of reference, for instance,
Yes,
ang
actually,
EU?
we're using that,
Yeah.
the European unions, and also the UK's AI safety report. By the way, which ang Pilipinas was represented there.
Right.
Mr. Ligot represented the Philippines there as a private sector consultant there. Um, and also, there are similar discussions happening in the United Nations, for example. Pero mas political naman doon. No? Halimbawa lang, I already mentioned the use of AI in lethal autonomous weaponry,
Yeah.
etc. So yes, we're active here. But I would like to discuss a third problem.
Please,
Sabi ko nga,
please.
AI is a very, very, uh,
It's an
parang,
immense world.
it's
If
a
I
men's
can,
world.
yeah, I would.
Another
Yeah.
problem is displacement of workers. I'm not saying they're gonna lose their jobs. Huh? I'm just saying
Yeah.
that their jobs will be replaced. Have you heard, for example, Richard, of a job, may job posting na ngayon na AI trainer, prompt engineer, for example. So may trainer na may prompt engineer. What the hell is a prompt engineer? It's a way of, it's a prompt engineer. A person's job is to be able to ask precise questions or structure precise questions to an AI. So what I'm trying to say is these yung the way we learn, we yung jobs natin ngayon, we need to also be trained in AI if we want to move on, especially sa BPO sector, which contributes significantly to
So
our
AI
GDP.
proficiency.
AI proficiency on multiple levels, from engineering to how to use it properly. Kasi dati-rati may EA ka nagagawa ng presentation mo. Ngayon si Copilot ng Microsoft,
Yeah,
it can even lay out your presentations
yung
for
Zoom
you.
namin sa, I don't know, I'm sure any professional like Zoom namin sa UP. So after I teach class, right, AI will come with all of this summary.
Correct. With
And
summary.
sometimes it's even better than what I noticed while listening. Like, oh nga no, yung sinabi na yan, diba? And then my caveat pa rin siya, they're, this is not the final, blah, blah, blah. But like, that was quite scary to me. It's like, wow, ito yung level. So, doesn't that create a kind of an AI proficient Brahmin class, right? Na yung section ng society na proficient na in terms of language, connections, has a chance to sit down with more informed people, na sila, dahil magaling na sila makipag-interact sa AI, they can kumbaga augmented yung kanilang skills
Correct.
lalo,
Yes.
while
Yes.
yung huge part of the population na parang na-mystify lang sa AI, ano yan, ayokong hawakan yan, lalo sila mapag-iwanan. Kasi may digital divide na tayo. So is AI divide the next phase?
Oh,
Which,
yes, yes. Not only the AI, so there are two types of AI divide, no,
right,
Richard. Number one is the AI divide on people who can use AI and not use AI. And then people will find
yeah,
themselves being dinosaured out of their
yeah,
jobs, right? But the second is a more the economic divide being produced
yeah,
by AI. As more AI enabled jobs are introduced into the market, then your labor force has to develop. If your labor force does not develop, then you have an economic problem. So that we have to go into. Plus, yung digital divide lalong lumalaki. AI consumes a lot of energy. An AI GPU based rack is like 40 watts or 40 kilowatts, while a regular rack is only 10 kilowatts.
four
They
times,
four times more heat, four times consuming of energy.
yeah,
In fact, that data centers that uses AI or AI data centers have to use a dielectric, linulubog na yung server para lang mag-cool off.
yeah,
So, yes, they use more resources, they use a lot of power. Plus, sino bang may hawak ng chipset technology? The patents on it, etc. So, lumalaki rin yung digital divide. They use a lot of bandwidth, so connectivity is required, di ba? Data centers are required. If we don't catch up, ito yung magiging problem na. And this is what where the SET is trying to level up the field. Kasi the hyperscalers are moving into Vietnam, Indonesia, no? And then we're asking Google and Microsoft, are you not moving to the Philippines? Then they said, the investment regime has to give us more tax breaks. We have to also solve some of the minor issues with our power, etc. No? So I, what I'm trying to say is that this digital divide will go wider and wider
yeah.
if we don't work on it right now.
Your own previous sector, the BPO industry,
Yes.
I deal with a lot because they invite me a lot to give geopolitical, big picture stuff. Because, for instance, will the Trump administration also go into services? For instance,
Yeah.
so far the tariffs is on all products. So, um, nevertheless, the thing with the BPO industry sa Filipinas is pinag-usapan parati anong pwedeng impact ng AI. Ang pagkaintindi ko dito is ang nangyari kasi is AI can increasingly do the kind of stuff at the lower
Correct.
rungs
That's
of the
correct.
ladder. Yung mga
Yeah.
basic na, kunyan, paano ko i-turn on itong laptop ko, yung mga ganun.
Yeah.
So increasingly, you need a workforce that can come at the point of intervention dun sa mas mataas na level.
Correct.
Once the conversation gets a little bit too complicated, then papasok yung tao, diba? Yun magpa-prompt
I'll
ka.
give you a very concrete example.
Mm,
I worked with BPO before I went to government in 2017 and back. No, at that time, 2016, 2017, 2015, nababawasan na yung voice, yung contact center agents na voice, yung
yeah,
sumasagot.
yeah,
Mas dumadami yung back end. And yung mga back-end call center, sorry, let's not call it call center agents. Yung back-end agents, ang ginagawa niyan, mas analysis na. They're, you
yeah,
know why? Kasi nung unang panahon, back in the 90s, di ba, you are asked with option 1, option
yeah.
2, option 3, option 4. Oh, by the way, lost credit card, option 2, di ba, ganon. Ngayon kasi, you just tell your prompt on the phone. Say, hey, by the way, I have a problem with my credit card. I lost my credit card.
Boom,
You don't have
diretso.
to click a
Yeah,
option. It will automatically say, okay, you lost your credit card, then you go to this. So nagbabago na yung BPO industry. In fact, ano na mas malaki na yung back office servicing. Kasama na yung mga legal, Filipinos are being hired to be transcribers for legal documents, management of knowledge bases. And a lot of this are semi-automated. So they're using AI for categorization, for example, and for storing data, but you still need a human to prompt the AI and train them. So it's not just it happened as early as 2015, 2016 when I was still in the BPO industry. So this is as real as it gets. Yung sinasabi ko na displacement in jobs. And you will, if you
so
get a
what are we
chance to,
doing in the government in order to prepare people? Is the
we're offering
TESTA,
trainings.
the OST,
Yeah.
coordination with like how do we create a AI proficient at least at the minimum level
Yeah,
among
so
as many
DICT
people
is
as possible?
offering a lot of trainings for
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
We're also we're also giving some funding for trainings that are attuned with the BPO industry for the displaced workers. No? So so we have that. For example, we have AI enabled training for digital marketing, and that's for free. Yeah, and you can just visit the DICT website. You'll be able to see all the trainings that we're giving. Number two is we're also using AI against AI. We're using AI to detect AI generated content. We're using AI, for example, our Cybersecurity Bureau's National Security Operations Center analyzed 256 million logs in 2024. No human can do that. So we're also using AI to manage
Right.
256 million logs. We blocked 5.4 million malicious attempts in 2024. Again, it was automatic. It was an AI also being trained to detect malicious behavior.
Are we in a warfare, in a hybrid warfare situation in that sense? Because I want to wrap up this discussion because in the last part, I want to talk about the national security implications
Mhm.
here, right? On one hand, itong issue ng China-backed troll farms is being openly studied. There was the
That's
a
correct.
data study last year that looked at
Yeah.
really all of this evidence that shows that mukhang may foreign-backed malign foreign interference. There was a study by ASPI of Australia, which we also discussed in the past, that look at these factors. You had the hearing recently that you attended. There were issues about jurisdiction of different companies. Can we talk a little bit about how serious is this? Let's call it like China-backed troll farms in the
Mhm.
Philippines. Yeah.
So there are two types of quote unquote trolls. Now let's talk about real trolls, which are technically real people who can
Mm,
ano, who can respond in a troll like manner. One liner that
yeah.
actually is
Yeah.
funny,
Yeah. Yeah.
and people will notice it. And then there are bots. Bots are just palaman para paramihin yung negative
Yeah, comments. Or yung emoji. Pansin ko yung ano
emojis
oh,
lang,
yung
emojis. Yeah.
kunyari si President BBM pag nagsi-speech siya, ang daming mga 600,000 emoji na parang tinatroll siya, di
Yeah,
ba?
yeah,
That
yeah.
very
Those are
much,
bots.
those are bots. It looks
Yeah.
very on ano.
And again, I would like to call Meta and Meta Philippines why they're not doing anything about it. Kasi I can see even AI generated content pumapasa sa kanilang sponsored ads. May sponsored
So
ads.
may butas talaga yung
May
sistema.
butas yung system ni
And we have
Meta.
jurisdiction over them, right? Just to be clear from legal.
No. No, that's the one we're talking in Congress nga.
Mm.
We don't have jurisdiction because they're an American company. Unless we tell them that the only way you can operate in the Philippines is to have
Well,
a
that's what I'm saying
Philippine
because you
office.
had the case of Brazil that they had a back and forth with Twitter, right?
That's
Like
correct.
we will ban you if you don't do the following things. So we have a sovereign prerogative. If okay, let me use that word. Do we have a sovereign prerogative to really pressure these companies
Yes, I think
to get their
so.
act
I think
together?
so,
Because
yeah.
this is serious. We have elections.
A lot of statistics are already telling us that we're the third largest Meta slash Facebook slash
Yeah.
Instagram user in the world. Even though we're a very small country, we're still 120 million strong
Mm.
population. So yes, and we have the tools to do so. We're not using it because there is no law, and we're not into the habit of breaking any law. But if Congress passes a law that says you can block a particular platform for not following Philippine law, there is a technology to do that. It's not really that expensive. I mean, less than a billion
Yeah.
pesos can be put up just so we can have that particular capability. So yes, the answer is we can do that, but we need the law because right now there
Mm.
is no regulation for social media. It's like a wild, wild west of, and then, there's not even a law penalizing troll farms. Huh?
Yun
There's
nga
none.
eh.
I
Yeah.
mean, assuming tomorrow we raid a call center and then they admit employing 100 people
In a
as troll
troll farm.
farms,
Yeah.
what's what's
What's your legal
what's your
basis?
legal
Yeah.
case? Diba?
Right.
Wala. I mean, what do we do? So
Mm.
we need to, and there is by the way, there are bills passed in Congress as early as December of last year, um, penalizing troll farms. Kasi you're spewing propaganda. And let's face it, propaganda and the use of information in warfare is as old as time. Diba? That's why,
Yeah, and it could be very dangerous. Like, God forbid, may conflict tayo sa West Philippine Sea, then biglang ma-activate itong mga troll farm to downplay the conflict. Yung pala, may namamatay na mga sundalo. Yung pala, sinasakop na yung Pangasinan or something, then you can create this.
correct.
Which brings me to the last point. There's no way I'm gonna let go of you without talking about our good friends in TikTok.
Yeah.
Just when I thought things are getting interesting, so last month I was in ASEAN for a conference, and pagbalik ko, next time, suddenly banned yung account ko. I was like,
Mm.
what? Weird. And then I even appealed it because like because I get trollish also. Like if you troll me, basusin mo ako, I'll reply with like an emoji of a clown or something like that. But to use that as a basis to ban you was like, this is like someone is a bit too excited to ban Richard Hidarian. So
Yeah.
I made some calls to our friends here in TikTok Philippines. Thankfully, shout out to them. Inayos sila kaagad. I'm sure you also know these common friends of ours. But my thing kasi is the very reason I got more active about TikTok is iba yung market. Pansin ko, andun din yung mga trolls ng isang camp na we know which camp this is. But this is also because now we're seeing the advent of TikTok elections.
That's
The
correct. Yes.
the Indonesian elections last year, ang laki ng role ng TikTok, grabe. Both in terms of campaign strategy and also in terms of consumption by Gen Z. Some would say a lot of the last minute slivers of vote that Trump was able to win over was because he was very active on TikTok. And you can see he even tried to reverse the ban on TikTok once he came into office. So I won't be surprised the upcoming elections in the Philippines could be a quote unquote TikTok
TikTok.
elections,
Yeah.
given how Gen Zs are very dependent on this and how it's easy to go viral on it
That's
compared to
correct.
any
Yeah.
other. Because on other platforms, you need to have millions of followers or hundreds of thousands of followers to constantly go viral at a certain level. Ang hirap yan. But with TikTok, anyone can do something viral. What are we doing with the TikTok question? Because it's still for me a mystery.
Yeah.
Like the guys here, they say all the right thing, but I don't know if they're really calling the shots. I think the guys calling the shots are the
Well,
engineers and folks
of
in
course,
in Beijing.
yeah, of course, they're not calling the shot here. But I think that's the reason why you should attend the TRICOM, the Trilateral Committee hearing. TikTok is also not attending, so maybe you should get a face
Pressure
off.
natin.
Yeah, but you're right. Now there's another form of malinformation or misinformation, and that is the threat of shadow bans. Tirang hindi mo alam na ban ka pala, o you are put in an archive. Now I talked to TikTok. I don't know if I'm authorized to reveal our discussions and to the person that I was talking
Yeah,
to.
but to the degree that you can
Yeah.
publicly say that at least you're reaching out to them and
Yes, I
trying to
did. I
share,
did. And
including my case, na clearly
actually, I
I've
did.
been shadow banned.
I
Yeah,
take your
yeah.
case. Ang sabi nila is that in their community guidelines, they're saying that actually politics and the discussion of politics or like political campaigning is actually not um, encouraged in TikTok, and unlike Twitter, unlike Facebook. Kumbaga, they just want it to be a
Happy.
very happy place where you can dance and sing. I don't know. I don't
I'm
know.
not sure about that because I saw some of our friends attacking the government and getting
That's
easily
correct.
millions of
That's
views.
correct.
It looks like a certain type of political narrative. So, yun kaya nga na tumataas ang kilay ko
Plus,
di ba?
good luck imposing that particular rule. Because how do you classify satire? Is that for entertainment?
Exactly.
But that's also a political
Yeah.
commentary
Kaya
in
nga
an
nagpo-post
entertaining
ako ng
view.
mga budots yung mga budots dance.
Baka pa nagsayaw ka, hindi ko na nila i-shadow ban.
One got through, but the other one hindi.
So I think that's a discussion we can make in Congress and would also be very interesting.
You think it's urgent? You think it's time?
I think, and plus, DICT actually supports regulating social media platforms. We're not into banning, we're not into censorship, but at least they should follow law. They should be equal in their presentation of facts.
Yeah.
And if somebody questioned their facts, it should also be given an equivalent airtime. Let's say,
Right.
oh, mali yan. They should at least put this might be bad, incorrect context, or this post lacks context. Be careful. I'm all for that. You don't have to ban it naman eh. Just say, mukhang may mali dito.
Yeah.
This looks like a fake generation of
Right.
news. This looks like a fake video.
You
et cetera,
flag
et
it,
cetera.
yeah.
Just flag it.
Or at least some sort of disclaimer. Or
Disclaimer,
something. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. On that, I would say encouraging note, because I've been saying this for quite some time. Maybe we want to look into some of these platforms and all of that and not get overexcited. And believe me, I'm saying all of these things with a lot of admiration for what China has achieved throughout the years. I just gave a lecture the other day about the rise of rise of BYD, for instance, and
Oh, yeah.
and
Electric cars.
Chinese industrial policy and all of that. So, but at the end of the day,
And they have a Leo na.
exactly. So, but at the end of the day, it's national security, and we have a serious problem of all of these troll farms undermining our position in the West Philippine Sea. But then again, sabi nung isang magaling na congressman, meron pa ba ang West Philippines Sea? Kaya tinatag siya kahapon na ito yung Google Map, ito yung West Philippines Sea.
Mukhang alam ko yan.
Yeah, okay. On that one, thank you very much, Yusek, for
Thank
that
you.
fantastic, really
Thank you.
kind of a deep dive style discussion. So we call this episode series and all this podcast as Pilipinas 360. So we're really looking at all aspects. So within the quote unquote limited time we had, I hope we covered a lot of bases in terms of different types of algorithmic biases. Tinignan natin yung differential impacts sa labor market. But at least yung ating talagang mahalaga sa akin yan is in terms of making sure there's an accountability and also not national security threat. So maraming salamat, Yusek. I'm sure we're gonna have more of you. And I encourage for people like you to stay in the government. And
Thank you, Richard.
without saying more, I'll keep it there.
Thank you, thank
Maraming
you.
salamat. Thank you very much. So thank you everyone for joining us for this episode of Pilipinas 360 Degrees. Katulad ng pinangako ko, pag-usapan talaga natin lahat ng mga dimensions ng isang mahalagang issue, whether itong issue ay artificial intelligence, na medyo geeky, dorky, technical, or in the future, pag-usapan din natin yung mga more gut issues, food security, economic development. So lahat yan pag-usapan natin dito. And of course, yung ating paborito, issues related to West Philippine Sea and sovereign rights. So thank you very much for joining this latest episode of Pilipinas 360 Degrees.